All right. Well, that should do it. Let me refresh all of my browser windows here. So Facebook says we're live.
Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum. What's up, Facebook? Yeah, it says four people. This says four people. YouTube doesn't say we're live yet, but that's
Wow,
okay.
that's
What's up, Facebook?
yeah. So we're testing things right now. So if you could let us know in the chat that Justin's voice and picture are all synchronized. So Justin, if you want to, ramble off the Gettysburg Address or something.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Leave your shoes at the door. We like a clean house. We want to move. Walk real smooth, light like a mouse. I don't know. It looks. You know what? I'm watching myself. I'm gonna do one of those feedback loops. I'm watching myself on YouTube. It looks fine. So maybe it's just me. Technology's wonderful, isn't it, folks out there in the internet?
Yeah, I mean it's looking good for me. Now normally what I do
Okay.
is I go in
Not
and
just
I
jump
just
right into the show. We have like an intro and things like that.
well, normally I have a countdown that I'm running at this time, right? But
Okay.
since we wanted to test your audio and video, we're not doing that. And the other thing that I normally do during this time is I go ahead and comment on all of the different streams using their
Oh, look at
interfaces
that.
so that I know whether or not I am receiving the comments in Ecamm. Because if any of you are watching and you don't know what I use for these live streams, I do use Ecamm, Ecamm Live. Basically, I got a
Hashtag
license.
not a sponsor.
Yeah, hashtag not a sponsor. I got a license a long time ago, and so I'm grandfathered in, and I actually like the way it works, and so I haven't switched because I like the way it works. So if you ever have any questions about live streaming, now Ecamm Live is Mac only, so just be aware of that. Um,
Yes.
I know hard crew to
We're gonna
talk to
turn a lot
about
of
that
people off
tonight,
today
right?
with the whole like. We're gonna turn a lot of people off today with this whole like Mac Apple thing.
You
It's a
know,
cult.
I I have my own opinions,
You know what? I have my own opinions also.
so well, I hope you do,
We need to. You know
since
what? I want to get you. I gotta get you one of those like those film things. Like one of those. Um, Apparently, my family's watching from downstairs. Simona requests that I talk about unicorns, and Roman would like you to talk about him. Hi, Roman and Simona. That's all you get from me tonight. Eat your dinner. Be nice. Be good for mom. And that's about the end of it. Unicorn. I want to get you one of those film things like the I
yeah,
forget
the
what they're
the
called.
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get one of those. Also, I'll convince you to start using StreamYard instead of Ecamm.
I can always try it. Never know, but
Try
the
everything twice. Good life lesson.
that's true. So I'm sporting the All Things MSP tumbler this evening. You know, uh, send me $29.95 and a self-addressed stamped envelope, and maybe you can have one. How many people?
Well, you know what? We'll build a
How many
store.
people do
We'll
you
build a store. It's
think
easy.
know what a self-addressed stamped envelope is anymore?
I thought you could go a deeper cut and you could ask for a sassy, right?
Well,
Because they
guaranteed
used to
nobody would
say
know
because
that.
it's SASE, right? They used to say sassy. Self, if you're under the age of 32, you don't know what a self-addressed is. I will ask for those who are watching or those who are going to listen later, like, what do you think of when I say you too can just play small classified ads and live your dreams?
Been
Remember
there,
that
done
guy?
that. Been there.
That poor
And
guy.
same generation that probably sold Amway at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Amway was for a long time. I remember there's this really awesome movie I used to watch called Go. It's all about ecstasy. Anyway, there's a whole thing where they invite this couple in, and at the end he goes, "You sell Amway?" And for the longest time, because obviously that movie came out before the internet, I didn't know what Amway was. I didn't want to ask my parents because the movie was about drugs, and I couldn't look it up. And like later in life, when I was much older, I finally found out what it was, and I was like, "That doesn't seem so bad. I don't know why they made such a big deal."
It's just sales.
It's just
And
sales.
honestly, it was a great way to learn some sales practices. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
It is probably about time for us to actually start this thing. So I do have an intro, and so I'm gonna.
Let's go.
All right, everybody, welcome back once again to All Things MSP, the live stream edition. As you guys know, we do these just, because I don't have anything else to do on Wednesday nights. No, that's not true. I do these because I enjoy doing it, and there are a lot of interesting people out there in the MSP channel that I think you guys deserve to listen to. Have a great number of people watching tonight, so love it. The numbers keep growing, which I really do appreciate. And tonight I have a guest who specializes in managing Macs and Apple, things that, a lot of you might not do. And I kind of have a personal investment in this in terms of, no, I don't own Apple stock, but I have a story that I've told a lot, and some of you may have already heard it, about why I think you should be managing Apple if you don't. So stay tuned for that. If you don't know, what did I just do? I don't know. This is where Justin is going to have all the ammunition in the world to get me to switch to StreamYard, just because my graphics screwed up on the live stream. But anyway, I do want to mention we are a Facebook group, so facebook.com/allthingsmsp. And then LinkedIn, obviously we're there as well. And then last but certainly not least, and maybe you're even watching us here on YouTube, is, like, subscribe, ring the bell. The subscribing really helps. We're up to 990, I think, as of today, subscribers. So, give me that extra 10, would you? I'd appreciate it. But all of that to say, here he is, the man of the hour, the man who manages Macs. Justin Esgar. Yeah.
Hey! What's up, man? Let's get to 1,000. That's where that money's at. We got to get that sweet YouTube cash.
Yeah, I know, right? Because that's all I'm doing this for.
Yeah.
Is that sweet YouTube cash.
Sweet YouTube. You can actually, once you have YouTube monetization, you can actually sell your All Things MSP Tumblr right on your YouTube page.
That's true.
2 for 1, man.
So, but I will admit, because, I believe in being transparent and all of these things. Yes, I'm about to hit that 1,000 mark, right? Probably with normal numbers being what they are, it probably happens sometime this week or next. But I am way far off on watch time because most of my videos are short, right? Until I start doing these live streams. Yeah. So, we're still a little ways off from monetization, but like I said, we don't really care because that's not what we're doing it for.
Watch this show you need 4,000 hours, right? We'll do an hour here. So watch this show 400 times. Pick out every inconsistency that I'll spit out, and then help Eric get monetized, folks. Because we're in it for the community. It's all about the community.
That's right. And, the community should pay for itself. Just kidding. Yeah. All right. So, Justin, for those who are just not lucky enough to know who you are, give me the 30-second rundown.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. What's up, everybody? My name is Justin Esgar. I am the owner of Virtual Consulting. We are a conglomerated company of handling all things Apple. We do business to business with virtual computers, business to residential, business to consumer, however you want to look at it, with My Mac Mentor. We recently acquired a company called Gravity, so we're an Apple authorized service provider. I host a conference called the ACES Conference, which is all about the business side of IT consulting. I do business coaching and consulting for IT professionals. I also have a fun little t-shirt store. I've dabbled in hardware, dabbled in software. I got a business book, a children's book, an adult coloring book. You name it, I've been there. And And here I am with my solidly good friend, the OG host of the All Things MSP show,
And
Eric.
you
And
have a following.
I do have a following. Yeah, it's weird that I'm saying this to myself, right? Technology be damned. My, my own iPad downstairs, and my kids are watching me on because they like watching me on the. I'm in the screen. I can't get out. They send me messages like that. I love them too.
That's awesome. So that leads us to tonight's conversation. And tonight's conversation I wanted to have around managing Macs, both from a technical standpoint as well as the why. Because let's face it, market share is still Windows PCs, right?
Sure,
For
sure.
better or for worse. And, so that's where a lot of MSPs have most of their focus. But I want to tell a short story, and I probably should have had some really funny graphics and, some calm, friendly music in the background, but, I didn't. I was working today. Um, but anyway, once upon a time, when I was working for another vendor, I was called into a meeting of the executive team to speak about something that we had been working on. And as a side conversation, right before I left, the CEO asked me what I thought about managing Macs. And I had been waiting for this question for a long time because I had recently. So, truth in advertising, I was a Windows shop when I was an MSP. Okay. I had a
Yeah.
couple of clients with Macs and I did take care of them, but still primarily Windows. When I switched to the vendor side, it was for an RMM tool. And I was like, we really need to be able to manage Macs with our RMM tool. And so this question came up in this executive team meeting. And I was like, well, it's a pretty simple answer. Okay. Look around this room. This room is filled with C levels and VPs, right? How many Macs are there? And how many PCs are there? It was 12 to 1. 12 to 1. And the 12
Yeah.
were the Macs.
Yes.
And so what I then continued to say was that the reason you manage Macs is not because you're going to make a lot of money managing Macs, although you have, so you're the exception. Um, but what you're going to do is you're going to get into the hearts and minds of the C-level execs, the owners, the presidents of the company, etc. Because if you can't manage their devices, and we all know they're the hardest ones to manage because they're the most demanding, right? Um, if you
Mm-hmm.
can't manage those, they're not going to put a lot of value on your service because they need you too, and you need to be able to handle their devices. So, that led to us going out and actually finding and purchasing a Mac RMM to be able to, to service that environment. And I personally, if I put my former MSP hat on, think that Mac is extremely important, um, especially for that reason. So, Justin, love to hear your comments on that, and then we can talk a little bit more about, some of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a solid story. It's funny how in a lot of companies we're seeing that those C suites become Mac people. Um, Keith just posted this in the chat here. It just works. The thing is, yeah, it does. Right? It does just work. But the truth of the matter is, what doesn't work is the person who's using it, and that's where an MSP should really be making their money. See, it's different in the Mac world, I think, than the PC MSP market. Right? PC MSP market, a lot of the time, you're managing servers and Active Directory and structure and security and things like that. On Macs, we're smoking some weed and drawing some pictures. So what do you need like security and protection for, right? Like what we manage is expectations of people, and we just make sure that not only does it just work, but it continues to work, and those expectations that person has, whether they're a C-level person or an intern, are met. And that's the important part, right? It doesn't matter. I always say to people, it doesn't matter you use a Mac or PC. You're going to the same crap on the internet anyway, right? Like It doesn't. You could be on a Chromebook. You're still just going to go to Google and you're still going to look at the weird things on Google, right? It doesn't matter what device you're on. The question really comes down to is how productive can you be? So I'm going to go back to you and I'm going to say, this is what we do for clients. I had a big client. It was two nonprofits that merged. One was using Macs. We were taking care of them. They merged with a company that was doing PCs. Everyone freaked out. Do we make everybody go PC? Can we make everybody go Mac? And I said, why don't you just let them have a choice? Let the staff members have a choice. Let them use what is most productive for them. Productivity went through the roof, right? Because we can manage all of it. Manage Macs, manage PC. It doesn't matter what tools you use. Tools are tools, and we'll get into that. But if you can provide them productivity, you can provide them ROI on their time, done, right? That's where it's at.
And really,
yeah.
as MSPs, what we really should be delivering is productivity, because,
Right.
and I think it's Dave Sobel who said this, or said this in one way, shape, or another. If you can be the MSP that not just saves them money on their IT, but actually adds money to their bottom line by increasing that productivity, that's where you really want to get as an MSP. Because the race to saving them money is a race to the bottom, right? Cutting costs, cutting expenses is always a race to the bottom. And so you want to flip that and make it about productivity so that you're actually making them money instead of just trying to save them money. And that's where you get really, real value as an MSP, as that trusted advisor, as that virtual CIO.
Especially because the IT department anywhere, whether in-house or outsourced, is never the profit center of a business, right? IT is always going to cost you money. Like I have arguments with CFOs about this all the time. Like I'm like, you need more money in your IT department. Well, it doesn't make us any money. It's never going to, right? You're not sinking money into that. What you're putting money into is the ability for the rest of the organization to make you money, to cover the cost and then some of what you're sinking into IT. And that's true if you're managing Macs, if you're managing Windows, managing Androids, Chromebooks, doesn't matter, right? If you're an MSP and you're taking care of schools with Chromebooks and you're not using something like GoGuardian to manage those things, you're doing them a disservice. If you're not using the proper, I hate using TLAs, but if you're not using the right PSA or RMM or MDM tool that fits for you to work with your clients, you're doing them a disservice. Do yourself a favor, do the service for yourself, provide the good service to them, let them build their productivity. That's how you'll win. It's never a race to the bottom. This is what I hate. There's a couple MSPs that, here's a story. I'll tell you this one. I went to a BNI meeting. So for those who don't know, BNI is an international networking group, right? And I was a guest at some group in New York City. I happened to have gone there the day that the PC MSP, who was a member, was doing their long speech. So the format was everyone got 5 minutes or like 30 seconds to do their elevator speech. And then there was one speaker who spoke for 30 minutes on what they do to try to convince everyone else to give them all the referrals. Okay. I'm there. I'm a guest. Hi, I'm Justin. I'm a guest. I fix Macs. Yay. Cool. PC MSP guy is the special speaker. He straight up goes, we fix for a flat rate of $40 a device. Justin, how much do you charge? And I was like, $150, $175 a device. And he's like, that's outrageous. And I was like, one, eat me. Two, I walked out. I emailed the VP. I was like, that's sorely disrespectful, but whatever. But the fact is I was like, I guarantee you that dude's not in business anymore. Not at $40 a pop, right? Unlimited service at $40 a pop. Give me a break. Right? Because he was racing to the bottom because he thought it's all about scaling in those numbers. But you forget that you have to pay for staff to manage those numbers. You have to be able to build value into that. And he lost all that. So yeah, so that he's out. There's a lot of different ways we can take this now, right? So let me ask you, you want to talk about what we're delivering or like how we're surviving as a business, especially in today's climate?
I think both of those are important, right?
I knew you were going to say both. I knew you were going to say both.
All right. But, I think let's do a quick rundown of some of the how do you manage Macs? How do you structure that?
Sure.
And then
Sure.
um, because I think it's probably what a lot of people are going to be interested in, and we'll leave that for later to keep them watching
Yeah.
longer because we do things like that. Um, anyway, then we'll talk about the business climate and in general what you're doing to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to these economic times.
Yeah. So here's a big difference between Mac management, Apple management, and PC management. Apple has buy-in on management. Windows does not. And here's what I mean by that. Number one, I'm going to preface this with PC MSPs, please stop saying you can do Macs. Just call me. I'll take care of it for you. That's my little asterisk on this. Second thing I'm going to say is Apple has a program called Apple Business Manager. When you have a business account and you get set up with Apple Business Manager and you buy apples through the proper channels, those devices get listed in Apple Business Manager. What's nice about Apple Business Manager is you tie Apple Business Manager directly to an MDM of your choice. We're an Adigy shop, but you may have heard companies like Jamf, Kanji, Mosel, Simple MDM. There's a lot of them. When you make that magic connection, what happens is when you turn on a Mac for the first time, it calls home. Apple goes, this computer is owned by Eric, and it will automatically enroll itself in the rules we've set in the MDM that we've built for you. So when we talk about setting up computers, when we say we're remotely, like it's really easy for us to do that because we can send a computer to someone's house in like Ohio, tell them to put it on the Wi-Fi and wait. They're going to get a thing. They'll say, hi, we want this to be in remote management. And then it will auto set itself up and do whatever it needs to do. That's what I'm talking about, the buy-in. On PCs, you have to go through the entire Windows 11 setup, say, no, I don't want Cortana, or whatever her name is, this particular version. Choose a domain or non-domain, I'm never sure. Set the whole thing up, do 4 hours of software updates to reboot, to then do another 3 hours of software updates. Then I can install an RMM tool like ConnectWise or Datto or whatever to then manage the computer. That's the difference. That's the huge difference when I say about buy-in, right? That buy-in from Apple makes all the difference. Apple has even released their own MDM. I don't want to talk about that because I'm not a big fan of it, but because it's limited, and I'm sure there's going to be more stuff coming in the next year or two. But like Apple has bought in on this and created this spec MDM, and that has allowed us to be able to like really like conquer this whole like remote work situation for people. That's my take on it.
Cool. So while we're on the topic of the tools, what are you setting up in terms of security for Mac?
Mac people don't care about security. The truth is, we do. It depends on the company. It depends on what the situation is. There's a couple different things. So one is obviously Mac OS has its own built-in. I'm sorry, there's someone coming into my room right now. Oh, I think. Mac OS has its own built-in software called Gatekeeper, and Gatekeeper allows you to. It stops a lot of that malware from happening on the computer, right? So there's already that. Then on top of which, we may install Malwarebytes EDR or something like that. We really stay away from antivirus. There's not a lot of reason for that, and it slows out of Mac down. We're more concerned about like the networking level of things. So obviously firewalls, things like DNS filtering, and what else do we do? Oh, and like dark web scanning and things like that. So we take care of all of those things, and that's how we get that security level taken care of.
Right, because for the Mac, for a lot of reasons, the endpoint is already more secure than your average Windows PC.
Sorry, this is what happens. It's late, and stuff happens in people's houses. This is where
Yeah.
we're at. Kids,
Well, my
dinner, all
cat,
that stuff.
you missed it, but the cat jumped up in my lap while you were talking. And and
All right.
and and by the way, if anybody noticed that my volume was off earlier and it got a little bit louder recently, yeah, I forgot to pull my microphone over. It's part of that getting started that we were kind of rushed to do tonight. But anyway,
Yeah.
so you wanted to
So yeah.
talk
So I
about.
mean that. Well, I'll talk about whatever. Let's talk about whatever. I'm
Yeah,
like so
well,
thrown off at this point now. Yeah. Wait, I saw Keith has some questions here. Um, Theory, think about demanding a higher price. Oh, you're talking about making a profit on your business. We can talk about that for a second. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, Stop racing to the bottom. Demand a higher price. Here's the thing: if you're providing enough value for the client, they will pay the price.
yep,
There is always a breaking point, right? You're not going to walk in there and charge $500 an endpoint, but the going rate in major metropolitans is like 200-ish a device at this point. And so you can get away with that without a problem.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I know Keith. I know he's got a very profitable business. I've seen his cars, uh, and hopefully, well, we'll talk about that later. But let's kind of go to the topic of these times are a little weird, right? We just came off of a pandemic, which was weird enough anyway. And now it looks
Yeah.
like we're heading into a recession. Maybe, maybe not. Nobody can make up their minds. So, what are you as an MSP? We can even pull Mac out of it for a second. But what are you as a business owner doing to make sure that you are putting yourself in a healthy position regardless of what the economy might do?
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know the answer. No. So here's the thing. I think the pandemic itself was the great equalizer for IT people, right? And what I mean by that is, we've told people for a long time we can do everything remotely, and they didn't believe us, right? And yes, as a business owner, we want that face to face. We want to be in person. We want to talk to the owners. We want to see what's going on. How's the office? How's your wife? How's your kids? Whatever. Fine. But we told you we can do it remotely, and you didn't believe us. Everyone goes home. Those who won were backed by IT people who had already put stuff in place to ensure they would win. I remember the beginning of the pandemic, a colleague sent a thing being like, hey, do you guys think this is a good email? And it was like, this is the time we start thinking about VPN. No, dude, you are 6 months to a year too late on that, right? Now, granted, I'm not going to say that out of the gate everything worked perfectly when everybody went home in the beginning of lockdown, right? We had enough internet and VPN, for 3 people. All of a sudden, now we're doing 300 people. We've made changes, but the majority of it was the great equalizer for PC people, for IT people in general. So there was that. As for moving forward and growing, so we can get into this a little bit. A couple of things. One is being really good at what you do. You should be anyway. If you're not really good at what you do and you're kind of like meh at what you do, get out of it. That's true for any industry. But be really good at what you do. Then you also need to find those avenues that are going to allow you to maintain and then grow. Because remember, if you do nothing, you're shrinking, right? That's I forget the verbiage here, right? Like if you do nothing, you're shrinking. You have to at least be doing something to maintain. I have plenty of people who I know that are like, I don't want more clients. I'm happy with the clients I have. Yeah, but what happens when your clients leave you or they die or whatever? What are you going to do? Then you're going to worry about getting more clients, right? So there's that cyclical part. So either grow enough to maintain you, or grow a lot and succeed. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. The avenue we decided to go with was acquisitions, right? We've in the last 2.5 years, we've acquired 3 companies, and that's how we've actually been able to grow both a physical presence and our offerings. That, like I mentioned earlier, those were all through acquisitions of people who I met at the conference that I put on. So like there's a whole storyline here. And I think you and I talked about this the other day on something we'll mention later. But the whole thing was I created an app. I wrote a book about how I outsourced all the coding. I went on speaking gigs to talk about the book and the lessons I learned. I met consultants. I learned that they don't all do business the same way. I started a conference. I met more consultants. I ended up acquiring those consultants, right? Like, so one thing begot another. And actually, the reason I even made the app in the first place was because I was doing work when I first started my business the way my old boss did it in a company that he failed at. And I had these paperwork tickets, and I lived in a studio apartment, probably no bigger than this, my little studio area here, and I'm filling it up with paper. So I created an app that allowed you to sign PDFs, right? So like these little things that beget one another. So, but getting the point, let me wrap this one up for you with a nice little bow, is that is the avenue we decide is acquisitions. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going after more clients actively. For Apple consultants, what's really nice is we have a program at Apple called the Apple Consultants Network. If you have Macs in your business, you usually call Apple first. Apple kicks you to this website. You type in your zip code. You see virtual computers there with 105 5-star reviews and one-star review, which I will own. It was my fault. I set this guy up on some new Dropbox alternative, and it was bad. Whatever. And keeping those reviews, getting more reviews, keeping them current, having more people, getting more people to like us allows more people to come through the door. So you have to do both at the same time. I know it's kind of a little long-winded, but there's two avenues here. It's get more clients and acquire more businesses.
Right. So growth by acquisition is something that a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of people have been doing. You talked about how you kind of went out there and found those acquisition targets.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you looked for in those acquisition targets that made them attractive to you and made you think that is a good acquisition for Virtua?
Yeah. So the key element, so it was what was, well, honestly, all three of them were a little different. So it's hard to say what the key element was. So the first one we did was another Apple consultancy in Des Moines, Iowa, right? So it gave us a little geographic. It came with two people. He had a book of business. They were similar enough to what we were doing in terms of our tools, our stack. Like we're an Adigy shop, they were an Adigy shop. We did Synology, they did Synology. We had IT glue, they had IT glue. So like moving them into our stack was not that hard because they were already familiar with the majority of our tools. We did Meraki, they did Ubiquity. That's where we had a little bit of a thing, but now we do Ubiquity, right? So there was that. The second acquisition, which was My Mac Mentor, was this woman out in Colorado. We looked at it as ancillary to our original business, right? If we're doing B2B, now we can start doing B2C and even B2SB, small business or solopreneurs, right? So we're building that side of it where we're doing training for people. And if we can grow that up and start doing training for businesses or even syndicated training, which is something we're looking into, that will then kind of overlap those two businesses, Virtua and My Mac Mentor. Then the third one had Apple Consulting and was an Apple authorized service provider and did Ubiquity. So we looked at that and said, okay, we can add yet another angle to our business. We'll take care of your hardware in warranty repairs, which is something that you can't actually do or get that. You can't really get that certification anymore from Apple. So we stripped the consulting side out, moved it into Virtua, turned that company into strictly an Apple authorized service provider. And now adds another level. So now I walk into a potential new client, and my offering went from like, yeah, we can take care of your computers to we can take care of your computers and we can train your staff on them and we can take care of the physical hardware when you need it, no matter where you are in the world. So those pieces allowed us to create a much broader business scope and gives us a lot more leg to stand on to differentiate us from any other Apple consultant or any other MSP that's out there.
Yeah,
That's what we look.
and I think that's a good point, right? Because I think that a lot of people who are looking for acquisitions are looking to just grow regionally or grow their book of business by, you know, acquiring another MSP who's doing, for all intents and purposes, the exact same thing that they're doing, right? But
Right.
there's that strategy that you've employed of going out and hiring businesses, or acquiring businesses that are different from what Virtua does on the day to day, so that you
Yeah.
not only expand, you know, in region and in book of business, but also in your service offerings in general. You're expanding what you can offer to your existing client base. And I think that it's actually a really smart way to grow, because you have a client base, they already trust you, so they are more likely to use you when you add these other services on top.
Exactly, exactly. And we're even process of building like in betweens to make it go faster. But every client in New York, if they need their hardware fixed, we're sending them a box to ship to our offices in Columbia, Missouri to get the machine fixed. This way it stays within our realm. When we need to set up new computers in bulk before they get deployed, we now have a storefront with a warehouse in Columbia, Missouri. We ship them all there and then ship them out because we have staff there that can do work. Like we've used and leveraged all these different pieces of it to make it to make Virtua itself a bigger, better thing, right? And so they're all part of. This is what I said earlier. It's all part of Virtual Consulting. Virtual Computers is just the the, the Apple MSP side for B2B, but all of these little pieces is what makes up our entire thing. I was on a show the other day talking to somebody about it. We consider it a hub and spoke, right? Apple's in the hub, and where do we break off to all these different things? We're doing consulting work, we're doing business coaching, we're doing hardware, we're doing training. The guy I was talking to happened to have been a marketer and totally gave me the name for my memoir, which is going to be Apple at its core. I was like, that's good. He did that one on the fly, nonetheless. Um, but yeah, that's, I mean, all of the ancillary pieces. I think for on the PC side, I think if you're a PC MSP and you have skills in a particular thing, you want to find, if you're looking to acquire somebody, find someone who has 30 to 40% of the skills you have, and the rest of it, something you don't have. This way, there's enough overlap so you can make their customers feel comfortable and you can grow in another vertical for your own business. And that's the way to look at it. If you're a PC shop and you're like, we do, you know, AD in the cloud and that's all we do, don't look for another AD in the cloud company. Look for someone who does AWS or GDP or something like that. You know what I mean? Add a secondary, tertiary component to make you bigger. And again, that's only if you want to, right? But that's a solid growth model that's worked for everyone in the world that's ever done acquisitions ever.
And, you know, I think that acquisitions are you know, we've seen consolidation by acquisition on the vendor side of this industry for probably almost a decade now, like
Yeah.
really rolling fast. And we're starting to see it on the provider side as well. And I think it is a good way for people who are looking to grow fast to make those advances in that.
Well, hold on. Let me stop you for. I don't mean to be rude, but it's it's not growing fast. It's not growing fast. It's a slow way to do this because one, there's only so many acquisitions you can do in a specific amount of time, unless of course you're bleeding money, which at which point go for it. And two, there's a lot. Here's the other side of the acquisition because the acquisition sounds all wonderful and rainbows and unicorns and whatever, right? After the acquisition is done, the rest of it is the hard part. Getting your team culture on board, getting everyone to understand their new roles. I'm sure you may or may not bring on the owner of that company who was used to not having a boss and now has one. So like there's a lot to be that has to be like dug into when you're doing an acquisition, and that is a very slow moving thing. We went nuts and acquired two companies in 1 year, but the first company we acquired was a completely different business, and we knew the owner wasn't sticking around. So it was more of a training and handoff, which worked. And now we're trying to, it's been a year, and now we're in the process of growing it. The second company we acquired, we kept the owner, we kept the entire staff. We had to then separate the businesses and kind of like figure out who lands where in this, 52 card pickup, for lack of a better analogy here, and then restack the deck and figure it out. And that's always going to be tough, no matter who it is, because you always have personalities you need to bring on. It's not like you're just hiring somebody. When you go to hire somebody, like, Eric, I'm going to hire you. We're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to think you're wonderful, or I'm going to think you're an asshole, right? Like and then I'll make my decision. But when you're acquiring a business and you're bringing on all their team, right? Because that's part of the deal that you're making most of the time. You need to be able to figure out that culture. Luckily, I think we have. Maybe when we do our 360 review, I'll be told differently. But like, I think we've done that pretty well with our team. And so that's another piece when you're like looking to acquire. Like, you need to make sure those personalities match. You want to make sure you don't have culture clash, because that's always going to be a big thing.
So I was really talking more about the contrast between acquisition, which, by the way, if I'm a $2 million MSP and I buy a $1 million MSP, I now have a $3 million MSP, right? I'm not discounting the amount of work, because you are absolutely right. I've seen so many acquisitions go, I'll use a Southern term, squirrely, because cultures just didn't match, right?
Yeah.
It's not uncommon. But in comparison, trying to grow an MSP by acquiring new clients one at a time, especially as MSPs who are not traditionally really great at marketing. I mean, there are exceptions to that rule, but by and large, and I was one of them, not great at marketing, right? I have improved. I've learned a lot over the last 10 years.
You have 990 people who subscribe to you on YouTube. You must be doing something, right?
It's not bad, right? Especially in my spare time. Right? I'm not Casey Neistat, but it's better than the average bear.
Yeah.
So, and that was going to be my segue. See, you ruined my whole segue is what you did. Because I was going to try and segue from growth by acquisition to growth by marketing, acquiring new clients instead.
Sure.
And so,
let's do that.
I'm glad you agree.
I'm really throwing you off your game tonight, man.
Oh.
We try to be professional here in this industry, but like, let's be honest.
No, this industry is way too much fun to be that serious, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So in terms of acquiring clients, because I'm sure that Virtua is still acquiring new clients, what are some of the tactics that you are using in order to acquire those clients?
Most of the time, I'm just screaming out my window. Who has Max? Come to my house. Honestly, so this goes back to the consultant's website that I talked about earlier. Right, that's been a key element, and that's a big thing that makes Apple consultants different than PC consultants, right? Because I can throw a rock and hit 20 PC consultants in a block in Manhattan. You're not going to find that many Apple consultants, right? That said, it's not the only way, and there's plenty of other things to do, right? So, and we've tried a lot. We've tried the mass mailing. We've tried the sending aspirin thing. We've tried the webinar thing. We've tried the link. I sent 4 LinkedIn messages, one of which was like, "Do you want to be 463% more productive?" Like, I've tried all of those things. And from a marketing perspective, I'm currently having a real hard time because no one needs you until they do. And that's a hard thing to figure out and come to grips with, because how do you get in front of them when they need you? Right? How do you get a pop-up on their screen that goes, "This broke, call Justin"? So marketing firms, and I've engaged with a lot of marketing firms, whether they're marketing for MSP specifically or marketers in general, they're all like oh, it's about brand awareness. It's about being there all the time for everyone all the time and getting in front of all the channels. And then you have the other side that are like, no, 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 niche down, have an avatar, that one persona you need, and you're gonna hone in and you're gonna pick at that, you're gonna scratch that itch until it bleeds. Like, obviously, marketing people don't even know, what they're doing. For us, we've recently been making a big push on LinkedIn because that's where businesses are and we do businesses. We've been making a big push on YouTube. In fact, our My Mac Mentor YouTube channel happens to be monetized. 1,780 subscribers. So in a year, we got over three. I think we basically average like 1 to 1.25 subscribers a day. It's about knowing your audience and where they're going to be, really, right? If you're a PCMSP and you're focusing only on intense cloud computing, I move companies that have AS400s into desktop as a service, VM stuff. Stop posting on Instagram and TikTok. Your client isn't not there. They're not. Right? Where is your client? I don't know that. I'm not in marketing. I don't know where the AS400 Facebook group is. Is there a Facebook group? If there's a Facebook group, be in that Facebook group. But find them. Find those people and be in front of them then. For a more generic company or one, sorry, let me rephrase that. For a company that handles more generic work like Virtua, yeah, we do graphic design firms, we do nonprofits, but we have medical practices, we have doctors' offices, we have a fireworks company, we have an adult video store, we have who's some of the stranger ones we have. Like we have some like really bizarre clients, right? We'd have to figure out where those people are and hit them up the right way with the right type of content also, which is also another problem for entrepreneurs or owners, is like time to make content. Like Dave the donut guy from Dunkin' Donuts, right? I think his name was Dave. Like, it's time to make the content, gotta bang it out. But like, how many times are you gonna rewrite about cybersecurity until they do the thing? I think PCMSPs have it a lot easier than Mac people, because especially on the cybersecurity side of things, because you can easily get people to sign up for your mailing list and run a cyber scan and run their domain through ID agent and be like, look at all this stuff that's on the dark web. We can prevent that from happening. We both know you can't, but sure. But they don't know that. And you sell them on cybersecurity, and then that's your foothold. Mac people, again, like I said, they don't care about that stuff as much. There are some, but most of them don't. Right? So know who you're... I think from all of the marketers I've talked to, if I can bring them into the one lane that's correct, would be know who you're trying to go after. Don't worry about being so detailed with their avatar persona, but know who you're trying to go after. And then just find out where they're hanging out. Like, if you want to be the cool kid, don't sit at the loser table. Sit at the cool kid table. If you want to go and be in front of... I know a Mac guy who only does law firms. That's his whole thing. Okay? He only does law firms. I never see him at a single Mac tech event. He's not at any of the Mac conferences. He doesn't come to ACES. He doesn't go to Mac Tech. He doesn't go to Boot Camp. He doesn't go to... maybe he goes to the Bill. He doesn't go to PSU Mac Admins. He doesn't go to any of those. Why? His clients aren't there. You know where he goes? Law conferences. And he sets up a booth, and he goes, I'm the Mac guy for you, lawyer. And guess how many clients he has? A metric F ton. Because he honed in. He knows where they are.
Right.
He even went so far. I mean, I've had conversations with him, and I love this. He even went so far. If it's a new client, he sends them a Meraki, preloaded Meraki, and he gave me this great tip, and I love this. And he puts a piece of paper there with the instructions on how to plug it in. I took it a step further. I actually just draw right in the box, because the Meraki boxes are cardboard, so I take a Sharpie and I go, plug internet here, plug computer here. Power, don't touch this one, But like, he honed in and did it. I think there's a lot of MSPs, both Mac and PC, who are just too generalized, and therefore they're never going to be able to market because they don't know who they're trying to help. They don't know who they're trying to go after, and they're just screaming into the ether.
So yeah, I totally agree. You have to know who your audience is, and that means that you either know your audience is this huge group of people, which is okay if that's what you want to do. Just realize that it's very hard to find where that audience is because they're everywhere. With the
Yeah.
law firm example, it's very easy to focus in on the groups, the conferences, the meetings, the newsletters, all of those different things that that specific group gets. And so it's very easy. I a lot of times I talk about one thing in a former life. I was the chief information officer for a pool table company. Okay. And one of our best advertising methods was billboards. You remember those when we used to have to actually drive to work. Um, but it worked, right? Because and something you said reminded me of this, and that is they don't need you until they need you. And so, in the pool table business, it was they don't need you until they're building that bonus room or they're building a house or they're moving into that bigger house and they suddenly have this space and they want to fill it with game room furniture or a pool table. And so you have to find out where they are. In my case, they were stuck on I-4 in Orlando. And so billboard works. So what is your billboard? What's the probably electronic, digital in this day and age, but maybe not. I mean, maybe you focus
Yeah.
on, um, you know, lawyer. We use the law firm example again, lawyers, and maybe there's a bar association newsletter that you can be in.
Yeah.
Physical marketing is not dead. Although I would be really interested because I loved the fact that you brought this up. I absolutely just, this was amazing. The aspirin, because if you know the aspirin reference, I want you to comment on whatever platform you're watching this on because, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. And if you need to know more, we're perfectly willing to talk, offline about the aspirin.
Yeah. We did one time. When I was working for a firm. I I didn't know about the aspirin thing at the time. I came up with this brilliant idea of my own, and I sent candied apples with these new metal business cards that I spent my own money. I worked for another company; they didn't want to pay for this. I spent my own money on this whole campaign. I sent candied apples with metal business cards, with a big apple cut out of it, and uh, I sent it to the Daily. I sent one of them to the Daily Show, and I tracked the package, and it got there for whatever reason. This was like inside of Manhattan too, which should have taken like a few hours. It took like 3 weeks for whatever reason. Like it got lost, and so like they opened up this package from this person they don't know with a business card in it with like what must have been like a rotten apple inside of it. like like oh my god, I blew my shot with Jon Stewart. Um, so yeah, I mean it's tough. I was at an event, and I was in a here in Jersey. It was a named event, a lot of PC MSPs. I think I was like one of two Mac people in the entire room, and I was talking to a gentleman, and I was like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm MSP," and I was like, "So is everyone here. Can you give me a little more specifics?" And like he was so new to the industry, right? So he gives me his business card that he's very proud of, and it had his email address, which was an at Gmail. He didn't even have a URL on it, and I was like, "Dude, you can't give this to clients. This is you're setting a bet. You're starting off already on the wrong foot, right?" I was like, "You are your brand, right? Let's start there. Forget the fact that you don't even have any clients or know who you want to help. Like you are your brand." And I made him at the table take out his phone and buy his domain. And he's like, "Oh, I have a website. It's already on Wix." I was like, "It doesn't exist." So I made him take out his phone. He bought his domain. He connected it to Wix. He connected it to Office 365. And I had him like while there was a presentation going on, I'm like sitting on my laptop typing instructions like do this, It was ridiculous, right? And so I saw him the next day, and I was like, now that you have all that stuff done, you're going to leave here and you're going to go and you're going to get new business cards because there's nothing at this conference, because it was like vendor focused, that's going to help you. I was like, you can look up all of these vendors on the internet. You don't need to be here. You need to be working on your website and your business cards and getting some clients. Like, what are you doing here? And he left. He just straight up left. Right? I think let's even go back further. A lot of MSPs are like that. They don't even have a brand identity.
Yeah.
Right? You're no one. You're no one. I mean this harshly. You are no one without a brand identity. Right? I'm the Mac guy. I'm the Mac guru. People know me. I'm the funny one. I do a lot of stuff. I sell a shirt that says you're muted on Amazon. Right? Like, cool. That's my stuff. People have seen me around. But if you have nothing, if your business card is like that PC dude at gmail.com or like at office, whatever, I don't know what office's domain is, 0365.com, like if your email ends at Hotmail, like get off the block. But go, it's true.
But you're right.
Go, like, I know.
Well, and it's not hard to do. I mean, you can pay somebody on Fiverr to do just about anything in terms of branding and graphic design and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, the easiest graphic designer in the world to use is probably Canva. I think everybody's probably familiar with it. And you can build your own branding guide inside of Canva. And if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it some other time, because we are quickly running out of time. And Justin and I have a couple of other things to talk about. But yes, make a brand and make it yours. You need to have your color scheme. You need to have your logo. You need to have your font so that everything you're producing makes people think of you. And it needs to be in the same style, the same colors, the same branding. So Justin, because we only have a few minutes left. Do we want to tell these poor people? Oh, actually, sorry. I did want to bring this up because Keith is always great to comment and I appreciate him. So I want to make sure that we, talk about his comments. And by the way, Keith, you do not have a horrific personality. I know you. You and I end up talking at conferences for, hours on end. And yes, I mean, some of the best marketing is just you getting out and talking to people. I think probably Justin, can probably speak to this as well. But I know that when I was starting out, that's what it was. It was talking to people. And we have a lot of stuff that Justin and I are going to cover, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, just getting out there and being able to tell. Another thing, by the way, and I know I'm rambling in this part because I'm looking at the clock, but knowing what your elevator pitch is part of your brand, right? And you have to have those elements ready in order to, at any moment, if you're in front of somebody, to be able to share your brand and share what you do. And that's a lot of what Justin and I are going to talk about in future episodes of something that we may be starting soon. Justin, you want to?
Yeah. So Eric has been gracious enough to invite me to help host the All Things MSP podcast with Justin Esgar and OG host Eric Anthony, coming to a podcast app near you soon. We're going to be doing more content like this. We're going to have, I already reached out to a bunch of friends. We have a bunch of guests that are ready to line up. And we want to, what we want to do here is we want to actually make content that you want to hear about. We're not here to talk about our own stuff. We'll, the first couple episodes are going to be rough, and that'll be what we do. But we want to hear from people like you, Keith, right? We want to know what you think and what's going on in your world so we can help you with it. So think of our new All Things MSP podcast to be more like therapy. I was going to say coaching, but no one wants a coach. It's going to be like therapy. We're going to take your questions. We're going to answer them. We're going to provide you proper solutions that's going to help you grow your company. And take our advice or don't, but we're going to have a good time doing it. And yeah, that's going to be coming soon. Once we got to do some graphics, and then Eric needs to be locked back up into his cage so he can do some audio and video editing for us.
Oh, you know me so
soon.
well.
I do. That's what makes me a good host.
Well, and the All Things MSP podcast, like Justin said, it's all about what you guys want to hear about. And, yes, it is going to be, probably 2 parts therapy to 1 part real advice. But, we're going to have different segments. We're going to have different things so that, we're going to change it up a lot and see what works best. But the most important thing is what Justin just said, is we need to hear from you what those topics are that you want us to talk about. And one of the reasons why I chose Justin for this is really because we come from, different backgrounds. I have the vendor side. I was mostly a Windows PC shop. He's done the Mac thing primarily. Plus, he's done a lot of acquisitions as an MSP. I haven't had that experience. So we have a lot of different experiences and a lot of different attitudes towards things. We will not always agree. I can guarantee you that. And that's probably going to be some more of the fun content that we do. Is going to, watch us bicker like a couple old hens. But we guarantee it's going to be exciting. We really do. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to take this type of approach to it. And we want you guys to come along for the ride.
And we want you to, post questions in the All Thing MSP Facebook group or on YouTube. Send an email to Eric or me. Like, we want to hear from you because that's the important thing, right? If we're not providing, let's go back to what we talked about in the very beginning, because I'm going to tie this up with a nice little bow for you. If we're not providing you value and we're not providing you ROI on your time listening to these 2 knuckleheads, like, talk about the industry you're in, then we're not doing the right thing. We're now the loss leader IT department. But if we can provide value, if we can provide laughter, if we can provide you knowledge, if we can provide you skills and ideas, then we've created productivity and ROI on your time, and that's what I think the podcast is going to be all about.
Yep, absolutely. And
how's that nice little kickback bow?
Well, and he's not a bad host either. I mean, I did, so anyway, and with that, we are literally, we are 1 minute before the top of the hour, which is pretty much my limit for these, because that's when about the time that my wife gets home, and that's the time I need to be done with these. I think I've told you guys that before, but anyway, that's kind of the rule around here. Look for the podcast coming soon. Yes, Justin, I'm going to start editing them tomorrow. What we haven't done, and, we're going to let you guys see the sausage being made a little bit here. I need to call you and we need to set up a time to record some more. So,
yep.
All of that fun stuff. Guys, totally enjoyed this evening. These are really just for fun and to talk a little about what's going on in our industry and have cats in the background. In case you can't see her back there. And, just talking about what matters to you guys. So the more you comment, the better. And of course, like Justin said, reach out to us, comment on this on YouTube, come to the Facebook group and let us know what you're interested in talking about. I'll be using some of the topics that you guys are bringing up already in the All Things MSP Facebook group to do that. And with that, I'm going to say thank you again. Wish you a good night. Say good night, Justin.
Good night, Justin.
And don't forget, work like a captain, play like a pirate, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great evening.